right, guys, it is 10 o'clock and we are ready to start. I'm Ellie Gilbert and I'm filling in for Justin Edwards, who normally runs these meetings because he did become a father yesterday. So his wife, Courtney, delivered a healthy and beautiful little girl named River Marie. And maybe before this meeting's over, I'll share a picture with you. But we're going to go ahead and get started. You should have, I sent you yesterday an email with the meeting agenda and the slides for today. So you should have those. If you don't, they are available on the website, which is linked in the presentation. And I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Vita Stewart to welcome you to today's meeting.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Teacher Advisory Council September meeting. I just want to say it's an exciting time of the year as we are all settling into the rhythm of a new school year, carrying all the energy, the planning, and the preparation into this season and all that it required to get here. I believe just as the leaves are beginning to change, we are transitioning into autumn. We're also embracing the change and opportunities that this school year brings for all of us, both teachers and students. And I don't know about you, but as I think about the work ahead, I always like to ground myself. And so I'm grounding myself in the phenomenal-inspired idea of cultivating joy. Gautam Muhammad says, when we unearth joy, we are bringing rich experiences into the classrooms that students remember, that they feel loved by, that they feel invigorated by, that they feel a sensation throughout their body when they are learning. She says that's what she considers joy, that they feel the difference and they remember it. And most of all, we all learn from it. And so my question kind of to just think about this morning for all of us is, how will we ensure that joy is a part of the learning experience for our students this year? And how do we create that joy opportunity for ourselves? As always, I thank you for giving up your time and your voice and your talents to serve and represent your profession on this council. And thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Dr. Stewart. All right, I'm going to do the roll call of members. So if you will come off mute when I call your name and say here. I'm going to put this up on the screen so that we can all see it. Melanie Callahan. All right, Melanie is here. I know she's here. Chad Davidson.
Yep, I'm here.
Carla Criswell.
Present.
Becky Spies. Tony Prater. Rosa Cabero Hurley. Carla Lawson.
Here.
Mandy Perez.
Here.
Kevin Daly. Kristen Morgan.
Here.
Corey Burns.
Here.
Sarah Gleiser.
Here.
Casey Page.
Here.
Brooke Leffingwell.
Here.
Megan Hall. She's not here. Joseph Stiles. Emmanuel Anama Green.
I'm here.
Wendy Young. Nick Schaffner.
I'm here.
Jessica Hobson.
This is Wendy Young. I'm here.
Perfect. With Jessica Hobson. Not here. Shane Baker.
I'm here.
Scott Bratcher.
Here.
And I think someone came in while I was calling roll. If you'll just tell me who that was.
I think that was me, Wendy Young.
Oh, perfect, perfect. All right. Well, we will move right on ahead with our agenda. So you were sent an agenda yesterday, and I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
Chad Davidson, I make a motion, we approve the agenda with flexibility if we need it.
Thank you, Chad. Second. Get a second.
Nick Schaffner, I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor? Yes. I don't know how he usually takes a vote, so just wave at me. If you're opposed, please tell me. All right, that agenda is approved. The meeting minutes from the last meeting, I didn't have these yesterday to send to you, so I assume that you got them earlier in the month or earlier in the cycle. So it is available in the website where all of the TAC materials are. So would anyone like to move to approve the minutes from the last meeting?
I move to approve the meetings or minutes from last meeting.
Who was that?
Sorry, Emmanuel and Alma Green.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
And can I get a second?
Chad Davidson, second.
Thank you, Chad. All in favor? Any opposed? All right. Thank you very much. All right, next we have Margaret Sumney from the Office of Continuous Improvement and Support. And she's going to share with us some important information about suicide prevention. And I guess I will run those slides, Margaret. So if you just want to tell me when to hit the next slide, I'll be glad to do that. So I'm going to turn it over to Margaret.
Awesome. Hi, y'all. My name's Margaret Sumney, she, her, hers. I work in the Division of Student Success in the Safe and Supportive Schools branch, all under the Office of Continuous Improvement and Support. And today we are going to go over a few of the things that we offer in the Safe and Supportive Schools branch in terms of suicide prevention. Next, please. And so we really have three big buckets here. The first is a program called Sources of Strength. The second is that we offer both youth and adult mental health first aid. And the third is really more of an umbrella for supporting students, which was PBIS and ISF training. Next slide, please. So at Sources of Strength, their mission is to empower a well world. This program is designed to be a upstream prevention model for suicide. Next slide, please. So I am going to tell you a short parable that's often used in the suicide prevention world. So there's an elder, and every morning she takes her coffee and she puts her dog on a leash and she walks by the river. And it's a beautiful community and it has this waterfall, and folks really try and do what's right. But she starts hearing some screaming and she sees someone about to go over the waterfall. She dives in, she pulls them out, and she performs CPR, and they're saved. And the community rejoices. Well, this happens again as she's walking down. And so they say, okay, let's pull in other folks to help watch the water. And they build these watchtowers by the waterfall so that they know if somebody's going to go over. And they're pretty successful, and it's an important effort, but they can't catch everybody. And one day it's the elder's job to walk to observe the river. And she starts walking up the river, and they're like, hey, wait, you're supposed to be watching the river. What's going on? And she goes, well, I'm walking up to figure out why folks are falling in the first place. Next slide, please. And so that's, can you, we went a few slides too far ahead. There we go. Thank you. And so Sources of Strength is meant to do just that. It is a program that focuses on upstream prevention of suicide. So thinking about what are the areas of our lives that can prevent crises from happening and support us when they do happen. And we talk a lot at Sources about how to connect to resources. So peer leaders, those kids that we pull into the program are 4 times more likely to refer a suicidal friend or fellow student to help. And then Sources can also act as postvention. So effectively responding when crises do happen in our community. And that might be through suicide. It might also be an environmental trauma or any other sort of accident. Next slide, please. And all of this sounds great, right? We have these increased coping skills. We have more connections to those trusted adults, which we know is the #1 protective factor for kids. Like I said, kids are 4 times more likely to refer peers to adults. Across the school, this program increases help-seeking acceptability. So kids are more likely to ask adults for help when they need it. And we see the largest gain for students with a history of suicide attempts. Next slide, please. And recently, there is a new randomized controlled trial, and it showed that it reduced Sources of Strength, reduced the odds of a new suicide attempt by 29%. And this really is across diverse demographics, especially with high-risk groups. So those folks who maybe have experienced sexual violence and need more targeted intervention. Next slide, please. And so we talk about our sources of strength, right? Mark Lomary, who is the founder of Sources, was a social worker on a Native American reservation in Nevada. I recently learned that people in Nevada are very serious about it being called Nevada. And so he dove into the research and he said, what helps people live a well life? What prevents the likelihood that you will reach a crisis point? And so he found 8 factors: family support, positive friends, mentors, healthy activities, generosity, spirituality, physical health, and mental health. Next slide, please. And so what we ask kids to do and what we ask adults in buildings to do that are sources of strengths is to really think, what are places where you are really strong? So are you really leaning into family support? And this could be your chosen family, it could be extended family, it could be your immediate family. And we ask them, are there areas that you really would like to grow in? Next slide, please. And so all of this sounds really great. And you're probably thinking, Margaret, I love the idea of 29% fewer new suicide attempts, but when? What time? And I think you're right. But there's something really powerful about Sources. So we it's really a student-led model, which means we get those teachers or other staff members in schools who are those caring, connective, and positive adults. And those are our adult advisors. And at the beginning, they are doing a little bit more heavy lifting. Next button, please. Yep, perfect. And we pair those with peer leaders. We take our connected and caring adults and we pair them with peer leaders. And I am not necessarily talking here about the kids that you would normally think of as peer leaders. So not those that always make the right decisions, although we want those too. I'm talking about the kids who are caught skipping in the bathroom. I'm talking about folks who are leaders in athletics, who have sway in their groups. They might be in the nerds. They might be those really high achieving kids, but they're also those kids who, you know, their friends all sit in a corner and they talk about anime, right? So we want to get kids from every corner of the building. Next click, please. And so this is our community of strength, right? We are reaching the full school community by doing this. Next click. And then we pair this with strategic messaging campaigns. So we ask students to engage, interact, and apply those sources to messaging campaigns throughout the school. Next click. And what this does is it changes the cultural dynamics within the school. So we are supporting help-seeking activities and letting the school lean into those sources of strength that I briefly mentioned. And so as time goes on, our caring, connected, positive adults who are way too busy already can A, split the load with each other, so not one person is in charge of it, and B, the kids really take the lead. Next click, please. And there are all sorts of different ways that we can do campaigns here. So we can do self-reflection, wall displays, presentations. We can integrate it into classwork. I was an ELA teacher, and so I like to give an example that I often think of, which is if we're doing an analysis of character development, we can actually talk about where individuals leaned into their sources of strength or how they grew in them. And it is a direct connection, both the sources, but also really leaning into our standards. Next click, please. And so if you choose to bring sources, we in Kentucky are very lucky. The Department of Behavioral Health, Intellectual and BEDED, which I will get the right name and I will send it to you in the chat in just a minute, unless somebody else knows it and can put it in the chat. Sponsors all Kentucky schools. Between that and an organization called Brothers Run, we are able to secure funding for each school to have funding for sources if they choose to. And so what that looks like is gaining buy-in from your administrators and other key staff, and beginning to integrate this into your school. The Kentucky Department of Education, specifically my branch, has many trainers, and we right now are heavily in this season of going into schools, and we train adult advisors in the morning and peer leaders and adult advisors in the afternoon. I have 4 coming up in the next week. It is the best part of my job. And so you continually spread this message. Next slide, please. The next thing we do is youth mental health first aid and adult mental health first aid. Next slide. And this is an all-day training for adults that really talks about what are some typical signs of adolescent development, but also what are those, how do those distinguish from signs and symptoms of mental health challenges? And what do we do when we notice that someone is struggling. Next slide, please. And so youth mental health first aid is the help that's offered to someone, a young person experiencing a mental health challenge or crisis. So what steps do we as adults take to support kids? Next slide, please. And so we talk a lot about it is not your job as a mental health first aider to provide services for kids, but it is our job as trusted adults to recognize signs and symptoms of mental health challenges to connect them with appropriate professional help. Next slide, please. And we do this through assessing for risk of harm, listening non-judgmentally, giving reassurance and information, encouraging appropriate professional help, and encouraging self-help and other support strategies. Next slide. And so our last kind of big umbrella that we often hear about in our school worlds is the interconnected systems framework. So that takes positive behavioral intervention systems and connects them with mental health resources. Next slide, please. And so this takes PBIS, like I just said, our school mental health services, and it creates a cog that blends those all together so that we're not having 17,000 different meetings about the same group of students who really need support across all different kinds of behavioral, academic, mental health spheres. And so we align all of those to both decrease the work that our staff has to do and to increase the way we're able to wrap services around students. Next slide, please. And so that was quick, but I want to make sure that we have time for questions if we need them. And I also on this slide have the list on the left of all the trainings we offer, which are more expansive than the 3 that we just went over. And we have some training, some upcoming trainings for adult mental health, youth mental health, first aid, and catch my breath vaping prevention. And so that's with the training registration link. I know that was kind of a whirlwind and a lot of information thrown at you at one time, but I am happy to take questions if we have time for that. Okay, what I will also do is the Department of Behavioral Health, I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna tell you all what it is in just a minute. BDID also has an incredible suicide prevention resource that really goes through how to use evidence-based models. And I will post that in the chat. Like I said, if you're interested in any of these, you can use our request for assistance link found here. I'll also drop it in the chat, and you're welcome to sign up for training sessions that we have coming up.
Thank you so much. Next, we have a legislative update from our policy advisor and counsel, Cassie Treeblood. So I will turn it over to Cassie. I don't think there are any slides. No, yeah. Oh, there are slides.
Yes. And you can go on to the next one, Ellie.
Tell me when to go. All right. Thank you.
Hey, thank you all so much for having me this morning. I know you have a full agenda, so I will try to keep it brief for you. For the last legislative session, which was the 2025 session, that was a 30-day session, but it does always seem longer. There was a lot of bills filed and a lot of things that did make it across the finish line. So as always, KDE provides legislative guidance that was published in June with some supplemental guidance that has also come out, and that is all available in one central location on the KDE website. I have the link for you there at the bottom of the page, but it's also available under the district/school support tab. Some of that supplemental guidance did include the Senate Bill 181 guidance, which I think most people have seen by now. It is very extensive with an FAQ section. So if you can go to the next slide, please, Ellie. So with the 2025 legislative session being over, we are now in the interim. And during the interim, what will happen is you have the interim joint committees, which come together and meet once a month. And so the interim joint committee on education brings the House education committees, because last year we did get to have two of those. We had the kind of the K-12 committee and then the post-secondary committee. So that committee, along with the Senate Education Committee, joined together to form the Interim Joint Committee on Education, and they meet once a month. We did actually just attend those meetings yesterday, where they hear various presentations. All of those meetings are live streamed and then are also archived and available on either KET or the Legislative Research Commission's YouTube channel. I will drop the links for both of those in the chat for you. These can be very informative about what things are on the minds of legislators as they are preparing and looking forward to the next session. And actually, if you go to the next slide there, Ellie, I think that does also have, yes, that has the links as well. And I will then again drop those in the chat for you just so you can access those and look at them, because they can be very informative. We've seen a few different topics that have gone before the board or before the committee. Yesterday's meeting did look at CTE. They talked a lot about the apprenticeship as well as the teaching and learning pathway. Nelson County was able to highlight their program, and that all tied into a Senate bill that Senator Higdon carried last session and has indicated that will likely be refiled in some form for the next session. Unfortunately, we no longer see pre-filed bills. It used to be that legislators would pre-file some bills during the interim, and those would be available for public review. That practice went away a few years ago, but these conversations do give some insight into what they're looking at. They also talked about computer science and AI literacy. And then we did hear from the Fayette County schools. Their superintendent did come and answer questions regarding the district budget. So again, that meeting had a lot of information in it and something that you can go back and look at. But as we look forward to the 2026 session, that session will be a 60-day budget session. I was hoping that they would have the schedule published for you already. However, that's not yet available, but they will convene in January. And during that 60-day session, they are tasked with developing the budget. And so that is the main focus. However, we know that we will see a lot of other things floating around out there. One that we have already heard is some cleanup for Senate Bill 181. I believe it was a month ago, Senator Tishner brought together the K groups, had a large group of people around the table to go through what their concerns were with Senate Bill 181. However, she started the meeting by talking about some cleanup that she was already pursuing. And that really alleviated a lot of the concerns around the table. So we do look to see that bill early on in the session, and it may be highlighted at one of the remaining interim joint committee meetings. Right now, the last interim joint committee meeting for education is scheduled for November. However, the last 2 years, we have seen them add a meeting in December. So we are currently keeping an eye on that. I did tell you that I would keep this short, so that is the updates that I have at this time. Are there any questions?
I have a question about, oh, sorry. I have a question about 181.
Okay.
So in those conversations about alterations and fixing it and addressing some of the things that need to be cleaned up, is anyone bringing up the pretty clear unintended consequence of this essentially painting teachers in a negative light by its passage, considering like the things that they're trying to make illegal are already illegal, and it's sort of targeting teachers and painting them as untrustworthy inherently by its passage. It's a hard thing to oppose officially, to say that you want to go against that bill because of its language, but the passage of that bill inherently goes against the trust of teachers and paints, them as villain. Has that been brought up? Has anything like that been brought up? Because that's a really big concern here in Boone County in a lot of our conversations.
So I do think that has been communicated to Senator Tishner. You can actually see there were a lot of comments on social media to Senator Tishner as well once the bill really went into effect in June. So I do think that is aware. I think with the unintended consequences of the bill as well, and what she was discussing of trying to clean up is really having it aimed at that true private communications, whereas in practice it didn't quite, it went a little further than I think what was intended. And so in that cleanup, it is talking about, that true one-on-one communication, as opposed to, you're sending messages to everybody in the class that all the students are on. And there were exceptions included in there for if you're on field trips and, emergencies and things of that nature. So again, I'm hopeful that we will see that at either the October or the November interim joint committee meeting, so that can start being made public. And we haven't actually seen a draft of what the changes are, but when she shared those with the group, there was a lot of positive feedback around the table.
Thank you.
Chad Davidson got a question. With the regards to pre-filed bills, was there a specific reason why the LRC decided not to post pre-filed bills, or do we remember why they made that decision?
So I think that was actually a change that was made by the General Assembly, and unfortunately, that was a few years ago. I know that it went away, and I can't speak to the specific reasoning for that. I know that sometimes a lot of time would be spent on a pre-filed bill, and then what was actually filed was different. And so I know that there occasionally could be some frustration and confusion with that process.
Other questions?
Well, thank you very much. I will turn the meeting back over to you, Ellie.
Thank you, Cassie. All right, let's see what's next. Mathematics standards review from Thomas Klaus in the Office of Teaching and Learning. So I'm going to turn that over to Thomas, and you just let me know when to move these slides along.
All right. Good morning, everybody. And I took control, Ellie, so I can move them along. There's not many. But really today, just kind of wanted to let the Teacher Advisory Council know of a couple ways that they can interact and provide feedback on the Kentucky Academic Standards for Mathematics. And so, as you all know, the Kentucky Revised Statute 1586453 has us open and review different standards documents every 6 years. And so we are in the process of starting that for mathematics. And so for the first two parts of that are really about getting public feedback and then also getting people to apply, teachers to apply to be part of the committees that actually will review public feedback and do the work of reviewing and deciding if there are revisions that need to be made. So I do want to point out that we are seeking feedback from all stakeholders, whether that's teachers, administrators, students, family, business community members. And so we do have a public comment survey out now. And so that went live August 29th and will be open through October 3rd. That information for that feedback survey was sent out through the KDE press release. It's also been sent out in the Commissioner's weekly email and goes out through our Office of Teaching and Learning Standards newsletter. So we just ask that you share that with your community. And if you want to be part of that process or want to apply to be part of that process, please take the time to just leave some comments in there. I will say that because this covers all standards in mathematics K through 12, some people may be overwhelmed by that, but there are opportunities to just pick and choose standards that you want to leave feedback on or different grade bands. And so that feedback survey, again, is open till October 3rd. If there are questions that you have about this, and this will be in the slide deck you get today, but if there are questions, you can reach out to our division director, and then I'll save some time for questions here at the end. And so the feedback survey is one way to get involved in this process. The other way is through the, well, let me take control. Ellie, would you move to the next slide? I thought I had taken control. Oh, yeah. So the other way is actually within that statute, there are committees that come together to do the work. And those committees are made up of classroom educators. And so there's an advisory panel at the elementary level, an advisory panel at the middle school level, and an advisory panel at the high school level. There's also a review committee that's made up of teachers from across those grade bands, as well as business and community and members from higher education institutions. And so again, that application for standard writers will be open concurrently with the feedback survey, August 29th through October 3rd. And really, please, if mathematics is your area, please feel free to utilize the link, but also share with your math teachers, instructional leads, building administrator, anybody who's a maven for getting to teachers and who would be interested in being part of this process. And so really the big thing is we just want to make sure we have geographic representation across experiences, and making sure that we have a good sample of Kentucky mathematics educators who are part of this process. We followed a similar format with this Kentucky Department of Education press release. This also went out through the Commissioner's weekly email and through our standards newsletter. And if there are questions that you have after this meeting about the application or feedback survey, we have our division director down there that you can reach out to. Those are the two big things. So really just wanted to give an opportunity to highlight the feedback survey for the Kentucky Academic Standards for Mathematics, and then the application for standards writers. I'll pause to see if anybody has any questions or what questions you all have. And if not, you'll have access to this. And if there are questions, you have that second round of reaching out to our director.
Questions from anyone?
And I just will say thank you for your time, and thank you for sharing this message around the state.
Thank you, Thomas. Oh no, this is not the right slideshow. Give me just a moment and I will fix it. This was the original slideshow. I'm going to stop sharing for just a second and I will pull up the correct one, but we are going to turn it over to Susan and Karen here in just a second when I get the right slides up. And they're going to talk to us about the strategic plan and how the Kentucky United We Learn Council and their initiatives all fit in together. So give me just 1 second.
While Ellie's pulling that up, I'll go ahead and introduce myself. So I'm Susan Strange. I'm the Strategic Plan Program Manager. Unfortunately, Karen is not able to join me on this call. She has another meeting that she's attending currently. But as Ellie mentioned, we are going to talk about the strategic plan. I'm going to dive into some of our what we consider customer stakeholder goals. And then we're going to talk about how that relates to the United We Learn vision, and then how that also relates to the Kentucky United We Learn Council. And at the very end, I'm going to have essentially an ask of you all, a help. Can you spread the word? Can you do these things for us? Unfortunately, it is going to be a fair amount of information, but I think it's going to be information that you all want to hear.
I'm so sorry. I'm having trouble finding it. And I made this and I think it's the one I sent to you guys. So just give me a second. I will locate it. I don't know why I have 5 copies of the other one and no copies of that. Other than that makes perfect sense.
Ellie, I've got it pulled up if you want me to just share and go with
That
it.
would be lovely. Thank you.
Yeah, I can do that. Give me 2 seconds. Okay. Okay, can everybody see that?
Yes, all good.
Perfect. Great. Okay. So, like I said, we're going to talk about the strategic plan, and I want to start, well, maybe there we go, by talking about the vision, mission, and core values. So, our vision is United We Learn. That's what we've outlined as our vision. And the vision is under these 3 big ideas. So, United We Learn is made up of these 3 big ideas: vibrant learning experiences for every student, encouraging innovation, especially around assessment, and then creating a bold new future for Kentucky school through collaboration with our communities. Our mission is to create broad partnerships to provide leadership and support to ensure success for every student. And then our core values are equity, student success, collaboration, integrity, and innovation. And the way we talk about our core values is that this is what defines us. This is what defines the choices that we make. So for our objectives, I mentioned earlier, we have customer and stakeholder objectives that's really reaching out to the public. And then we have operational objectives that are in-house and internal. So I want to go deeper into the customer stakeholder ones today and not so deep into the operational ones. So our first goal is reimagining assessment and accountability. And I know that I have actually presented to you all in the past on the new assessment and accountability framework. The Kentucky United We Learn Council co-created that framework with KDE and with some external partners. And then we have shared that out. We have done surveys on that. We did a whole town hall on that. We've taken that to the board. We've gotten feedback on it, done some reiteration, sent it back again, done some more revisions, sent it back again. So we actually went through 4 prototypes, and now we are on 4 frameworks, and that has been approved by KBE, and we are now moving to get legislative approval on that. So our goal, and we've actually changed the goal language on this since we created the strategic plan. So instead of establishing, we're going to be looking at implementing between now and 2029 because our strategic plan lasts for 5 years. So we're going to implement an accountability model that includes vibrant learning, making it meaningful and useful for all learners. Under each of our goals, we have some key performance indicators, and this is just data that we're going to look at that pushes on that goal. So for this one, we're looking at districts that are increasing at each stage of local accountability system implementation, increase in the percentage of districts at each level of portrait of a learner creation, and then vibrant learning experiences development. So these are the 3 big things that we're looking at that will help support the implementation of this system. Under each of our goals, we also have strategies, and strategies are made up of teams or initiatives, work that's happening that kind of fits under a broader umbrella. And these are the strategies that we're looking at to attack this goal. So we want to co-create that accountability system through the inclusive feedback-driven process. So that's what I was just explaining about the town halls, the surveys, the feedback and revisions. And then elevating vibrant learning experiences throughout all levels of learning, and then support districts in developing their local accountability system through collaboration with their communities. The second one is reducing chronic absenteeism, and we want to decrease the statewide chronic absenteeism rate from 28% in 2024 to 15% by 2029. Our chronic absenteeism rate prior to the pandemic was around 18 to 19%. And then during the pandemic, we didn't do traditional ways of collecting attendance. So we can't put that those numbers into our data. But when we were making this goal of 15, we really wanted to get back to pre-pandemic levels, but maybe even better, because still a 19% chronic absenteeism number is still pretty bad when it comes to students being in the seats in the classroom. So the key performance indicators that we're looking at for this one is to decrease the percentage of schools in Kentucky who are experiencing high or extremely high chronic absenteeism rates. So essentially looking at those schools and seeing are there things that this school can do that can help reduce that. And then again, the strategies under that, we're going to expand opportunities for vibrant learning experiences. We're going to empower educators to support at-risk students, and then we're going to engage in proactive communication with family and community. And you all may have seen that proactive communication. We have a chronic absenteeism awareness campaign that's going on right now through communications and Office of Continuous Improvement and Support. So we've got billboards up. There have been commercial spots, YouTube commercial spots. The buses in Lexington now have our You Belong posted on the side of the buses. So we're really just trying to bring awareness to chronic absenteeism. Our third goal is to improve early literacy. And so we want to increase the third grade Kentucky Summative Assessment reading proficiency from 47% in 2024 to 60% by 2029. The key performance indicators that we're going to be looking at for this one is to decrease third grade novice, increase the number of educators participating in the Kentucky Reading Academies or our LETTERS program, reduction in the need for reading improvement plans as those students are making that accelerated progress toward reading proficiency, an increase in the implementation of early literacy screening assessments and diagnostics. The strategies under that are to align vibrant learning experiences to the academic standards for reading and writing. And if you've been paying attention, you've seen that vibrant learning experiences is kind of a through line through all of our goals. We really believe that by opening it up and giving a space to have more vibrant learning experiences is going to help in all of these areas. Support high quality literacy instruction and professional learning, support evidence-based literacy curriculum and instructional resources, and then targeted literacy support and intervention. We also have early numeracy, and if you're looking at these side by side, improving early literacy and early numeracy, they look very similar. We want to increase that third grade KSA assessment scores for proficiency, this time in mathematics, from 43% in 24 to 55 by 29. The key performance indicators, again, decreasing that third grade novice, this time in mathematics. We want to increase the number of educators participating in the Kentucky Numeracy Academies. We want to increase the implementation of early numeracy screening assessments and diagnostics. What's missing on this one that's in the literacy one, and I'll go back so you can see that, is the reduction in the need for those reading improvement plans. We just got funding for these numeracy academies, so we're actually going to see an increase in those mathematic improvement plans before we start seeing a decrease. The numeracy, the literacy improvement plans have been around for a little while, so we're starting to see a decrease in those as those students don't need them anymore. And then the strategies are all the same, aligning the vibrant learning experiences to the Kentucky academic standards for mathematics, high quality mathematics instruction, mathematics curriculum, and then that targeted mathematics support and intervention. Our fifth and final customer and stakeholder goal is expanding the recruitment of qualified educators. It's no surprise that we do have an educator shortage across the nation. So we wanted to keep this in our what we're able to have influence on. So we're looking at increasing the completion rate of eligible high school students in a teaching and learning pathway from 6% completion in 2024 to 14% in 2029. Now that number looks very small, but I want to explain that when we're asking students to enter these pathways, we are asking them to explore these and see if this is something that you want to do. So kids not completing a teacher pathway is almost as important as if they are completing it because they've realized that teaching is just really not for them. So we don't want to put any kind of a strain on those enrollment numbers. We want them to enroll. We want them to try it. And if it's for them, we want them to complete it. So we really just want to get more kids trying it out. We want to do an increase in the registered apprenticeships and an increase of enrollment in those EPP programs so that we can also push it beyond what they're doing in high school. So the current strategies we have are to encourage early entry and to elevate the teaching profession under that. And you all may have seen the campaign that's going on as far as elevating the teaching profession. We have an entire Go Teach KY. We have a new web page for that. So there's a lot of awareness that's going around to try to elevate that teaching profession and get more people to want to be teachers as well. So to talk about information and next steps on the strategic plan, I've shared with you the strategic plan webpage. We keep this updated with the current strategic plan. It also dives a little bit deeper into our big plan that's like 20 some odd pages. Under each of those strategies that I shared with you, we have initiatives, which is the work that's going on to push on that strategy that pushes on that goal. And so in that big plan, it kind of goes into that a little bit more. You can get an idea of what's going on under those strategies. We've also completed all of our monitoring meetings with all 8 of our goal teams. And the good thing about what we're doing by creating the monitoring meetings under the goal team is that we have a bunch of different offices that are attending these meetings. So we're getting a lot of cross-agency work out of this, and we're able to see if there are holes or gaps or even duplicated work. And so this has been a really nice way to pull people together and keep all of the cross-agency work transparent. And then we're also working on a strategic dashboard, and the strategic dashboard will either be embedded into the strategic plan webpage or be linked in here. It's not completely developed yet, but it is in development. We want it to be a dynamic dashboard that updates as we get updates. We want to make it useful for people to go in and look at it and say, oh man, chronic absenteeism, I need some resources on that. And so we link you to those resources. We want to keep the KPIs updated. So it's really just about being transparent about the work that's happening on all of these goals in the department. This that I'm sharing with you now is about that new assessment and accountability model, which is that first goal under our strategic plan. And we did co-create this with the Kentucky United We Learn Council and with the Commonwealth at large through those town halls. What we've done here is we have created what we're calling information sheets on this new assessment and accountability system to help people understand why we think this is important, what to expect from it, and how you can help out with it. So we have one of these sheets for each of our stakeholder groups: educators, students, family. Then we have a community and business leaders one, and it really kind of just outlines why this matters, what you can expect in the new system, and then how you can be a part of this work. Excuse me. So that's the ask that we're asking of you. We need your help. We need you to help us share out the Future of Assessment and Accountability webpage that really does give more information on the model itself. And those model framework information sheets. If you want to print those out, if you want to just share them with people who might have questions about it. We are also taking applications for new members on the Kentucky United We Learn Council. So the Kentucky United We Learn Council was created to help with this reimagining assessment and accountability system. And they've done that. They've made the system. Now we're getting it through legislation. We're going to start doing implementation, but we want to start shifting their work and adding on to what we've been doing. So we're looking at high school transformation. This is a NASB initiative, and Dr. Justin Pate on the board is kind of heading up that work along with Commissioner Robbie Fletcher. And so we are asking the Kentucky United We Learn Council to move to that high school transformation and essentially add on to the work we've been doing and really changing what high school looks like for our students. So unfortunately, we are kind of overrun with educators, but we do need students and families and community business leaders on the council. As far as the students go, we're really looking for, and this is where we need the educator help. We're really looking for students that have something to say. They might not be those high flyer students that are always showing up on these advisory councils or the leaders in education, but they have a strong passion for learning and their learning in particular. And so we want those students that are going to speak out from a unique perspective. And that's all I have for you all. Do you all have any questions? Well, okay. If there are no questions for me, I am wrapped up.
I really did have this slideshow somewhere. I did send that to everybody. So if you have questions for Susan, you can, I'm sure, email her if you think of things.
Absolutely.
Well, I know you all are probably terribly sad, but we are finished a little bit early today. So you're going to get an hour of your day back to go I'm sure you've got plenty of things to do, probably back to class for most of you. So if I can get a motion for adjournment.
Chad Davidson, make a motion, we adjourn.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Carla Lawson, second.
Thank you, Carla. Anybody not in favor of dismissing right now? I promise Justin will be next, and I will quickly, before we go, I will quickly show you his sweet little precious river baby. Here we go. Is she beautiful? Oh, yeah. I'm not share the right thing. I'll just drop her picture in here because I can't figure out how to share that screen too. All right, guys, thank you all so much for coming today, for all of your time and attention and me stumbling through this. So Jess will be back in December. Some of you, that will be your last meeting, and we'll have to talk then about how we go about finding our new folks. So we will see you all in December.